Welcome everybody to the Chinchilla Pickin' Podcast. It is June the 8th, 2025 at 4:34 p.m. As always, we hope to be entertaining, educational, and uplifting because we want everyone to make money. My name is David Underwood, and I'm joined by the one and only, the guy who just can't wake up, Brandon Beaver.
The Rambo of capitalism. Yeah, I overslept, man. I had a couple of alarms set and everything for this for four o'clock. Decided to take a nice nap, and I guess I was just a little too comfortable.
A little too tired. Did you sleep through your alarm? I mean, do you hit snooze? Are you a snooze guy? Do you have
Uh,
like five alarms?
no, you know what? I set my alarm on my Echo device. So like if I'm gonna turn off the alarm, I have to say something. Like
So
I
you
have to
probably
say,
speak in your sleep then. So you're like,
yeah, so I was like,
5 minutes.
"Hey Alexa, shut your stupid mouth," and I probably went back to sleep.
Nice. Nice. All right. Well, it's definitely been a week. I'm gonna take these off. I thought I could go longer with these on, but I can't see the
Hey,
screen,
you
man.
need them.
I can't see the screen.
This is
Like
the artist formerly known as Dave.
right? It'd be nice to keep them on, but like it just when I put them on, the like it fades like part of my screen here that I read my notes off of. Oh well. Oh
You're
well. It
about to
looked cool
break
for a
out into a
second.
piano solo, is what it looks like.
Yeah, right, right. All right, here we go. Yes. So number of things happened. I know I had a bunch of people, well, not a bunch. I had a couple people when I was at the gym this week when I was out and about asked me my opinions on different things. One thing a lot of people asked me was, are you guys going to cover a lot of how this? I mean, we got to talk about it. How the public feud between two people has it affected stocks or investments? And I told them no, it's affected one stock, one company,
Yeah.
and it had a wild swing there. And I said that's it. So I'm not gonna. I told everybody I'm not gonna spend 15 minutes talking about that. I think Tesla's a great company long term because of their Optimus robot program, because they also have this driverless tractor trailer part of the company as well. They have still more growth to go in AV vehicles, autonomous driving vehicles. They have more growth to go in that area, so it's a good investment long term.
I
Now
never thought,
the
I
ups
never,
and downs of the yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
no, you could talk. I just interrupted you.
I was gonna say the ups and downs currently in the market. I mean, if you're holding long term, then you don't even worry about it. But go ahead.
What a stupid feud to start. And I
I,
never thought I'd use the word stupid in relation to Elon Musk, but what a stupid feud to
yeah,
start.
so that's it. That's my 2 cents. I'm done. For everybody that listens, I'm done. Please, that's all I'm going to cover. There's nothing more to cover for me.
I don't
As
know.
far as from a financial stock and investment analyst point of view, that's it. That's all I got.
And I agree.
Yeah, but I tell you what, it is gorgeous over here in Cincinnati, Ohio. A little bit of rain every now and then, but gorgeous summertime. Everybody's happy. Kids are out of school. It's a good time. It's a good time to go to Reds games, apparently, in Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati. It's a good time to do all that kind of stuff. We have lots of fun here. Oh, Dr. Pepper, you're not going like zero? You don't do zero drinks like zero
No,
Dr. Pepper
no,
or Coke Zero or Pepsi Zero?
everything. So I think it might be because I'm from the South. So like everything, like my family's from the South. I was born here, but my family's from the South, right? So I grew up on Dr. Pepper. I mean, my parents oftentimes had Pepsi Cola and I just said Pepsi Cola. How old am I? But Pepsi and Coke is what my parents often had. But my grandma, it was always Dr. Pepper, and I always had Dr. Pepper. RC Cola was another one. And that's all. That's a South thing, I think. I think it's for me, my family, from being in the South. It's in my blood.
You know what's funny is so I'm very proud of my native history and my Native American side of my family tree, right?
Mhm.
Very very proud of that culture that's in me. One thing is on that side of the family, I grew up and all I remember growing up was everybody drinks Shasta Cola. Shasta Cola this, Shasta Cola that, and people would ask me, okay, because I don't present Native American. I look, 100% white. Just you could tell there's some ethnicity in me is what people say. But and I tell people when they ask, okay, tell me something about Native American culture. I'm like, we all drink Shasta Cola, and everybody. I used to work at a place, and everybody there thought I was just weird and like, no, they don't. Native American, nobody drinks Shasta Cola. That's not a Native American thing. And then one day we got this National Geographic about the North American Native Indian, and in it you flip through it, and there's all these different tribes, right, across the northern part of the continental United States. And in all these pictures inside the homes, every single one was drinking Shasta Cola, and I was vindicated. I
I've
was like,
never
there you go.
I've never heard of Shasta Cola. Never.
Shasta Cola. It's a thing among Native Americans. I mean,
Is it
I
is
don't
it
know why, but we love Shasta Cola.
do we have it in Ohio?
No, not that
Okay.
I'm aware of.
So it's like a Western thing.
Not well, Great Plains,
Okay.
West, that type of thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's yeah, Shasta Cola. That's all I remember. That being around that side of the family, it was that growing up. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
We're always talking about the Shastan tribe and Mount Shasta, and it was a big part of the culture back then. But oh well.
okay. So there is a Shasta tribe. Is this actually a cola made by the
Uh,
Native
no,
Americans?
it's not made by that tribe. The Shasta tribe is it's a tribe recognized by the state of California in California. They lay claim to the area around Mount Shasta is what they say. They do not have a official reservation, but they lay claim to the area around Mount Shasta. They say that they're owed money from the federal government because they came in and brutally massacred the tribe in around 1848 and took a lot of the gold and land from them and moved them around. There's a history there among the Shastan tribe, and yeah.
Nuh-uh, that doesn't seem like the government.
Right? Yes. Not at all. Not at all like our government. Yes. But there you go. That's enough about that. People didn't come to hear this. People came to hear about stock and investment financial news. So let's give them what they came for. Brandon and I get together 5 to 10 minutes before the show, and we tell each other what we're going to talk about. You actually hear the live back and forth, the bicker and the banter right here on the show for you. Brandon, like most time, not always, but most of the time, take it away.
All right. So, I think a lot of people reacted to the ADP jobs report, which was interesting because, I was looking at stock twits and everybody expecting the stock market to go down, and I was thinking, you guys really haven't been here all that long, have you? Because I knew exactly what was going to happen. That jobs report came out. It wasn't really necessarily bad news. It was just kind of like mediocre news. And then, the whales and the algos took over and they're like, yay, rate cuts, and then piled into the stock market, which is a terrible reason to invest. Good reason to trade, bad reason to invest. But I started looking at it and I was looking at all these companies that are doing hiring adjustments and hiring freezes and this and all that stuff. And from my perspective, the tech sector is restructuring, though demand for roles in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud computing, that all remains strong. I looked at retail, saw that Hudson's Bay companies announcing massive layoffs and store closures. And then they also have a hiring freeze for locations that are staying open as a part of, I guess what they're doing is they're looking at possibly liquidating. So maybe a possible situation with bankruptcy there. I don't know. Walmart has announced some layoffs.
And
Let's see.
what part of Walmart? I'd be curious because Walmart's so huge. Like they could lay off like 5,000. It's just all cybersecurity.
Yeah, it was weird, as I said, primarily in the technology department.
Well, all right. So that makes sense. And this is what my question. I was going to ask you this question, and I'm glad I started asking about what part of Walmart because I wanted to eventually ask you this question to see if you knew the answer to it based off what you're about to go into your data.
Yeah.
Is I was talking about this with a couple people I know, and we're pondering over different startup business ideas, and I was going to invest some money, and they do the work, and they get the sweat equity, and I get the capital equity, and we have a business, and we were talking about building the software side of it and the coding. And there's a young kid, he's part of this group, and he's 19, 20, and he said, we don't need a coder. AI can do it for us.
Yes.
And that I was like, you know what? We're probably going to see more and more people like that get laid off
Yep.
in the industry because we don't need them anymore. AI can do that for us now.
Yep. Yep.
We just have AI code everything, write all the script we need and HTML, what have you, and AI has it.
Yeah, and for the jobs that are going to stay around in coding, unfortunately, their salaries are probably going to go down because competition in that for the job space is going to go up as a result of people getting
Yes.
laid off. But also, if you get on to Google's Gemini right now, one of the first things that you encounter is the fact that Google's Gemini can teach you how to code. So there's going to be a lot of people in that area that know how to do it.
Yeah, I didn't know really Gemini can teach you how to code because
Yeah,
I might, you know, I got a couple hours a week I can spare and I can
right.
learn how to code.
Maybe make a little side gig, but there's going to be a lot of people doing that now. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on those earnings, or not earnings, but on those paychecks, unfortunately.
Right? Because now if I could hire Joe over here with only 2 years experience and do the same job that Bill over here is doing for 15 years of experience, I could hire Joe probably for a third of the price of Bill.
Yeah, and Joe can probably do it part time for you
Yeah,
rather than having a full time role.
exactly. And so save money all around. As a business owner, that's what you would look at.
Yeah, it's part of, this whole AI restructuring. There are going to be jobs created for this, but right now I think we're seeing the layoff portion of it, and we're starting to see, the negative side of it. The positive side is going to come around too.
Well,
Uh,
and also when you couple this with the I know we're talking about jobs, and we're going to get into the numbers
yeah,
of jobs
I
because
need to get
I
back
have
to it
lots
though.
of numbers of jobs too, and I have lots of data to go in here as well. You and I both mentioned this before the show started that we both have lots of data here, but when you couple it with Tesla's Optimus program that they still say is on track for 10 years out to start rolling out the warehouses, you're going to have robots moving boxes and robots planning the code for everything. It's going to take a lot of these jobs away everywhere, but other jobs will be created because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in 10 years, what's crazy? So they said that in a recent study that artificial intelligence, the power of it is doubling every 6 months. So, I
That
mean,
is
this
crazy.
is moving very, very fast. I think in 5 years, even from right now, there's going to be answers to problems we didn't even know we had. And there's going to be jobs and industries that we can't even imagine right now.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I
Um,
mean, eventually before this week's podcast is up, I would say like what are some of your places you're going to put your money,
yeah, I got that. Actually, I'm going to talk about
I,
that.
I do too. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we're on the same hey, we're on the same page for once.
Right.
Nice.
Back to the jobs, though. So in the financial services sector, there was Toronto Dominion Bank. They're cutting jobs and restructuring. T. Rowe Price is slowing hiring. Transportation, Japanese automaker Nissan, they're cutting jobs. They're shutting down factories globally due to weak sales. Burberry is cutting jobs globally to combat weak spending. My goodness, I can't talk. Weak spending in the luxury goods sector. Small businesses, this is tariffs hit them the worst. Anybody with 50 or fewer employees, they lost 13,000 jobs in May. Oh, so the U.S. private sector did, though, add 37,000 jobs altogether. So I hate when they say this. This is part of the news story that I was looking at. This marks the lowest pace of hiring since March 2023. And then you look back and you're like, well, what happened in March 2023? Oh, yeah, nothing. There was no recession in March 2020. There's no reason to even point this out. Who cares? If it
Right.
was like the slowest pace of hiring since COVID, then fine. But whatever. We still added 37,000 jobs in May. That was lower than what was expected, and then that's why kind of everybody jumped in and thought, "Oh, yay, possible rate cuts." Not a recession, but not great news either. So we'll
Right?
probably
So
give some of
can we
those gains back.
gotcha. I want to offer some more of these job numbers because I actually have the Bureau of Labor Statistics page up and not an article about it. I have the actual data here.
Let,
That
let
way
me say
you
let me say
you
this real quick.
go
The
ahead.
job growth came in leisure and hospitality, financial activities, and information. It's interesting. If we were going into a recession and the consumer was getting hit hard and it was as bad as what people are making out to be, leisure and hospitality would not be adding 38,000 jobs and be the leader in that. It would not. That
Yeah.
would be getting cut. So go ahead.
Yeah, leisure hospitality, they added 48,000 total jobs in May. So, and that was according, if you break it down even further, that's food services and drinking places. That was 30,000 of that 48,000
Yeah.
was in that. So it's, leisure and hospitality, they've added an average of 20,000 jobs per month for the last 12 months rolling.
Yeah.
They continually add jobs. So that's, I mean, people are spending money going out. That's a good sign for the last 12 months rolling. It's been consistently adding jobs. Um, when I look into some of these other numbers, one things I want to call out here. So the number of people not in the labor force who currently want a job was it was little change at 6 million. So these are individuals who are not counted as unemployed because they were not actively looking for work during the 4 weeks preceding the survey or unable to take a job, right? So
Mhm.
that's 6 million. Among those in the labor force who wanted a job, so the number of people marginally attached to labor force is 1.6 million. Again, little change, about the same. It's has been. These are all for rolling 12 months. When they say little change, they look at the last 12 months rolling. Little change, very little change in these numbers. Number of people jobless less than 5 weeks, it actually increased to 2.5 million in May. Number of long-term unemployed, that's they've been looking for a job for 27 weeks or more, decreased month over month by 218,000. So you kind of have an offset there between the two. So little change overall, if you will. And you can continue going. The number of unemployed people is at 7.2 million. So that's little change month over month. 7.2 million unemployed people. And when I say little change, that's little change in comparison to the last 12 months rolling, right? Now, when you go and look at the number of available job openings, again, all of this I'm pulling from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics websites. I'm not pulling from article. I'm not pulling from any site. I'm pulling directly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The number of job openings was little changed at 7.4 million in April. I started reporting this number on this podcast. What do you say, about a year and a half ago, Brandon?
Yep.
About, and at that time, it was almost 11 million, almost 12 million, or maybe it was 2 years ago. It was either 11 million or 12 million, and it's been trending down for a while now. And now we seem to be bottoming out here around the 7.4 million mark of number of available jobs. It's almost, you could basically say it's equal to the number of unemployed people at 7.2 million jobs. So that tells you we have almost the exact same amount of job openings as we do unemployed, quote unquote, people in America right now. And if that actually begins to inverse to where the amount of job openings drops below the amount of people who are unemployed, that's when it becomes a problem. Right now, we're close to that inverse. We haven't had this inverse in a long time. And so that's a problem. We don't have enough jobs for the amount of people who want jobs, who actually want them. And we're right at that edge of they're neck and neck, and it could inverse, and that's one of the things I look at to determine if we're going to have a downturn in the economy. But as of right now, I said it after saying all that. As of right now, the jobless number was good for the economy. It was a positive. You see healthcare doing well. Healthcare has done very well, especially in the S&P. So the S&P earnings for Q1, overall healthcare saw a overall growth for the quarter of what was it, 4.1% growth. It was actually estimated at the start of Q2 that the healthcare sector would have a 9.6% growth for Q1 when they report their earnings, but it actually came in at 4.1%. In fact, that's a trend. Overall, the S&P, the most of the companies report majority of companies reported positive earnings. They beat their earnings. But the forecasts like we talked about were actually lowered. And so yes, they beat what they were estimated, but the number was lowered.
Right.
And we're just throwing out a lot of numbers right now. People are like getting bored here. What does this all mean? Brandon, thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think it means we're not going to go into a recession at the moment. I mean, I don't want to be one of those people that says it's not going to be a recession and there's a recession that bites me in the butt. But, you know, I do think that we're going to have a second consecutive quarter of negative GDP growth. But again, I think that's people that, the tariff, the reciprocal tariffs, most of them, a lot of them at least on China, were reversed for a 90-day period. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people importing a lot of stuff in order to beat that 90-day, deadline. And I think that that's going to reverse GDP again, and it's just going to skew the numbers. It's going to look like we're in a recession, but we're really, really not. Um, there was some more good news that was released this week. The Consumer Price Index came out on June 6th. Headline CPI was 2.3%, which was lower than the month prior, which was 2.5%. It was also lower than the consensus of 2.5%. And then the day after the CPI was released, the Producer Price Index was released, and this was a huge surprise. That was down a half a percentage point, and core PPI was down 0.4%. So that's all good news for me. That's very close to the Federal Reserve's target, which they're almost never dead on 2% inflation. They never get to it. It's been their goal for decades, but it's never there. So
If they do hit it, they go right through it and then they go into deflation.
yeah, exactly. So then we're seeing these disinflationary pressures right now. Hopefully, it's not going to become deflationary, but I think this is giving the room to the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates if they have to. So as an investor right now, I'm not worried.
At all.
No.
Good, because I'm
I,
not I'm not worried either. And I get a lot of people comments up to me like when I go to my gym, I get individuals coming to me, you worried about the recession and the economy right now. I hear it's going bad.
yeah,
And I'm like, I'm not concerned, man. I'm
yeah.
not.
Now, as a libertarian, it's a different story because the reason I'm not concerned as an investor is because I think the Federal Reserve and the federal government will bail us out if they have to. As a libertarian, I hate that, but as an investor, eh, it is what it is. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting to look at these job numbers. Everybody was kind of screaming recession. The other thing that people say is that the stock market is overvalued, right? And I don't see it as overvalued at all. I really
I
don't. It's fairly valued if you're looking at the S&P 500, but yeah, I don't think it's you can find value still for
so
sure.
so the people making that comment they point out Nvidia and they point out the PE ratio of Nvidia and they say, look, the market's overvalued. And they point out the PE ratio of Tesla. Look, the market's overvalued. And they're pointing out the PE ratios of these companies that have extreme growth and are actually meeting that growth expectation
Yeah,
that people have for them, which means that they're actually undervalued.
right,
They're
right.
not overvalued,
EPS growth of 81% for Nvidia. Then it
right?
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense that you
Really,
have that high PE ratio because that's what we value that stock and that company at,
yeah,
and it's correctly valued,
right.
and it's going to go higher. And that that argument is they're pulling out two or three companies, and I'm like, do you even have any idea how many companies there are available to buy and sell on the stock exchanges that you want to pull out two companies? And now I'll give you this, Nvidia does move the markets.
Yeah.
They do, but I mean, you can't just pull out two companies and say the whole economy is going bad.
I mean, there were years where Netflix and Amazon had massively high price to earnings ratios that were way higher than what Nvidia's is right now. And what happened to the stocks? They kept going up
Yeah.
because they kept proving that they were able to meet those goals. Um,
And Netflix continues to go up, by the way.
yeah, it does. And yeah, well, they're doubling their market cap by 2030. That's their goal. So if they do that, then it makes sense. So.
They
Which
would
is
only have
crazy
a
because I
dividend.
mean, you look at companies like Meta, AI, and Netflix, and they continuously find new people that are alive on the globe to have their services. You didn't think there was anybody left. They find them.
Right? I mean, who doesn't have Facebook or Instagram by now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the artificial intelligence and the way to trade artificial intelligence. Really, the way for me, the way to invest in it. Um, I, look at last week, for example. We've talked about on the show multiple times how we're going to have a energy revolution here in the United States, and to power all these new data centers that are coming up. And Meta just made a deal with Constellation Energy. That's going to be a 20-year agreement. I didn't see anything on the financials of this. I don't think that's been released yet.
But
But
you made a, so I want to interrupt you here. You made a correct buy on Constellation Energy when you were talking about data centers about almost a year ago at this
yeah,
point. You pulled up we did a podcast and you talked about data centers for 15, 20 minutes. And you said Constellation Energy is perfectly poised to take advantage of this.
yes, and so is GE Vernova, and I still stick to that.
Yeah, I still own GE Vernova and I expect
Yeah,
it to grow.
me too. Um, in May, Alphabet, they said that they're going to provide funding to help Elemental Power prepare three potential sites in the United States for major nuclear projects. And Amazon in October announced agreements of development of small nuclear reactors with Dominion Energy. In March, again, this was relatively under appointed or relatively underreported, but in Amazon, they announced a partnership with GE Vernova, and that's going to be for power, and then also GE Vernova is going to be doing consultation services with AWS, and then also in return, GE Vernova is going to be using Amazon's AWS services. So we've got a lot of partnerships going up on here. My play here is this, for example, NVIDIA is your pure play on artificial intelligence, and then you want to look at hyperscalers like Google, Meta, Amazon, AI servicers like ASML, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think, when Nick was on the show,
Yep.
and then energy demand GE Vernova. So NVIDIA is going to get paid by Google, Meta, Amazon, etc. Google, Meta, Amazon, they're going to pay GE Vernova, and then NVIDIA is going to be paying their servicers like ASML. So you're owning the entire ecosystem of artificial intelligence here, minus Taiwan Semiconductors, which I'm going to leave that up to the listeners if they want to buy it or not. If Taiwan Semiconductors was by itself and there was no possibility of China ever wanting to take over Taiwan, I would be screaming buy right now.
Well, you want to know what? Here's one of the articles I have because it ties right into this. You ready? This article came out in Bazinga
Yeah,
on on June 6th, so 6/6/2025 at 4:42 a.m. And the headline reads, Amazon bets big on Taiwan with 5 billion cloud push. A $5
interesting.
billion cloud push launches a new AWS region to power AI and data growth. So Amazon announced plans to invest more than $5 billion in Taiwan's cloud infrastructure as it launches a new Amazon Web Service in the Asia Pacific region. This investment will support construction, connection, operation, and maintenance of the data centers across the island nation.
Interesting.
So Taiwan investment follows Amazon's recent $10 billion commitment to North Carolina data center. So what we're seeing here is Amazon's putting billions and billions of dollars out there for all these data centers, but they're not leaving out Taiwan.
Interesting.
And
Now,
that's probably going to help Taiwan semiconductor is what I believe.
yeah, I agree. And now playing into this whole semiconductor trade and artificial intelligence, last week there was the Bank of America Global Technology Conference that happened on June 4th. The Texas Instruments CEO was talking, and he said that we're seeing a broad recovery in the semiconductor space. We are at the beginning of a semiconductor cyclical upturn. And he said that he thinks the industry's hit a trough. It's now seeing the upswing. There's a lot of analysts that are agreeing with him right now, saying that we still have a couple of quarters, at least, maybe even a year or so to go before this new cycle peaks. He said the peak of the cycles for semiconductors, they tend to go pretty predictably every 4 years. So, for example, it's 2014 and then 2018 and then 2022. And then he thinks that this cycle is going to peak in 2026 and that we're in the very early innings of this peak. I
That's funny
also,
because Broadcom had a earnings miss,
yeah,
and they're a semiconductor company. They missed on top
yeah.
line numbers.
I think that we're going to get to the point where semiconductors are not so um, cyclical anymore. During NVIDIA's presentation at this conference, they started talking about how nations are looking at artificial intelligence as a structural thing. Infrastructure is what they're calling it. Artificial intelligence infrastructure. And I think that we're going to get to the point where artificial intelligence is a consumer staple. And it's sort of comparable to electricity to companies.
Now you say consumer staple. Where do you see AI as a consumer staple, not an industry staple? I can see how businesses and industrials will consume AI, but what do you mean by consumers?
Well, consumer staple, what I mean by that is actually still it's a business. I mean business staple too. I think it's going to be a staple in advertising and ad revenue. I think that it's going to be a staple to industries. So I'm really calling the industries are the consumers of artificial intelligence right now. So are people like you
Gotcha.
and me using Chat GPT and Gemini and all that. But it's more of a business staple, yes.
Gotcha. All right. So just today, Meta announced at 2:16 a.m. this morning. Headline reads Meta in talks over Scale AI. That's a company, Scale AI, investment that could exceed $10 billion. So Meta announced they're in talks to invest over $10 billion in artificial intelligence startup Scale AI. This is actually reported on the newswires by Bloomberg News. The terms of the deal were not yet finalized and could still change. Scale AI declined to comment, and Meta did not immediately respond to the Reuters request for a comment outside regular business hours. That means we'll probably see this come out with comments on Monday morning. But Scale AI was founded in 2016, is a data labeling startup. It's backed by NVIDIA and Amazon and Meta, all three. The last value of the company was nearly $14 billion. So a $10 billion investment is huge, means they're valuing this even more, especially since Amazon's already been an investor in this company. I mean, Meta's already been an investor in this company. They probably know a lot about what's going on there. So now they want to invest even more. Tells you that Scale AI has something.
Yes.
So it's with contributors in more than 9,000 cities and towns. That's literally the whole article.
I love this race. I love being a part of it as an investor. I mean, I know it makes some people sick seeing the capital expenditures, the capex go up on these companies that they own.